Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into something really fascinating, something that sits right at the intersection of future technology and just basic human psychology.
It's a real paradox we're unpacking.
Right. The central question for us is this. If you have the world's biggest innovators chasing ultimate efficiency with AI, where does human happiness, which is, messy and complicated, where does that fit in?
That's it. We've synthesized a couple of key sources that connect Larry Page's, his newest AI venture, with the hard science behind employee well-being, or what academics call subjective well-being, SWB.
We're basically looking at the ROI of joy.
We are. So on one hand, we've got the details on this very secretive AI startup, Dynatomics, from Google co-founder Larry Page.
And on the other?
On the other, an intensive academic study on that SWB I mentioned, plus job performance, personality, all of it. It gives us a map of what actually motivates high achievers.
So the mission, for you listening, is to walk away from this understanding not just how you might measure happiness, but why mastering the human equation could be the single biggest competitive edge we have in this new area of AI. Okay, so let's start with the big picture. Larry Page. I mean, a tech titan, controlling shareholder of Alphabet, worth something like, what, $254 billion now?
Right around there, as of late 2025. And he's putting all this focus on something that sounds, well, ruthlessly efficient.
It's a new stealth startup.
Exactly. It's called Dynatomics, and it's being led by Chris Anderson, who is the CTO of Page's electric airplane company, Kitty Hawk.
Okay, Dynatomics, so what are they actually trying to do?
It's pure efficiency engineering. The sources say Dynatomics wants to completely revolutionize product manufacturing by using AI to create these hyper-optimized design renderings. So literally redesigning the things we make for maximum utility and minimal waste. It's optimization by algorithm.
But here's where it gets interesting, right? Because Page stepped down as CEO of Alphabet back in 2019, but his whole legacy, Google's legacy, is built on the complete opposite of that.
It really is. The beautiful contrast.
He pioneered the idea that investing in employee happiness gives you the best ROI.
That's it. With Dynatomics, he's chasing peak efficiency in hardware and design. But his old company proved the biggest efficiency gain comes from human morale. Google didn't have nap rooms and free food just to be nice.
No, that was a calculated strategy.
A measured strategy to maximize intellectual output.
Let's give the skeptics some numbers here. How does happiness actually translate to financial outperformance?
The data is pretty stark. If you look at a portfolio of Fortune's 100 best companies to work for, it earned what analysts call a 4-factor alpha of 3.5% above its benchmarks.
And that's over a long period, right?
25 years, from 1984 to 2009.
Okay, 3.5% alpha. For anyone listening who isn't deep in portfolio management, what does that actually mean in plain English?
It means they weren't just riding a good market. They were consistently generating returns that were better than financial models would predict based on risk.
So they were just sustainably outperforming the competition.
Yes, simply because of their workplace culture.
That's a huge return on something most companies don't even have in their budget.
Precisely. And you see it in productivity numbers, too. There was a University of Warwick study that found happiness leads to a 12% spike in productivity.
Wow.
And on the flip side, unhappy workers are 10% less productive.
Just think about that. Dynatomics is going to need incredible amounts of code and computing power to get a 12% efficiency boost. And Google got it by focusing on morale.
And it wasn't just about the perks. Probably their most powerful strategy was granting autonomy.
The famous 80-20 rule?
The 80-20 rule?
That was letting employees spend one day a week on their own side projects, right?
Yeah.
As long as they thought it would benefit Google?
Correct. It created this sense of psychological ownership. I mean, it's about trust and autonomy. And it led to things like Gmail and AdSense, some of their biggest wins.
Now, there's a really interesting counterpoint to that strategy. Some companies optimize not by giving more, but by testing commitment.
Ah, yes. The pay-to-quit model.
The ultimate culture check.
Established by Zappos, and then Amazon famously adopted it.
I remember when Amazon started doing that, it sounded crazy. They literally pay their employees to leave.
They do. The bonus goes up to $5,000. The philosophy behind it isn't about cutting costs. It's about making sure that every single person who stays is genuinely all in.
So it's another form of optimization, just focused on the human element, whether it's through perks or a litmus test.
Absolutely. And to really get how companies can influence that, we have to ground this in the science, which is this idea of subjective well-being, SWB.
Okay, SWB. So this is moving psychology past just fixing what's wrong, and toward understanding how people flourish.
Exactly. It's a holistic measure. Life satisfaction, how often you feel good versus how often you feel bad.
But before we get too optimistic, we have to talk about the big hurdle here.
The hedonic treadmill.
Right, the treadmill. That's our brain's tendency to just reset.
Yeah.
It's why getting a promotion feels amazing for a little while, and then it just becomes the new normal.
It's a powerful survival tool. We adapt to everything. Winning the lottery or, even something profoundly negative like a major accident. Within a few months, your brain just treats that new reality as the baseline.
So you're always searching for the next boost just to stay in the same place.
You are.
So if our brains are always adapting, where is the real leverage? How do you create lasting change?
Well, it lies in this framework that came out of the research, famously known as the happiness pie, the 50-40-10 split.
Okay, let's break that split down because it's pretty fundamental to this whole discussion.
Right. So the research suggests that about 50% of your total happiness is determined by your genetic set point. That's your temperament. It's mostly fixed.
50%. Wow, okay. What about the rest?
Only about 10% is determined by your external circumstances.
Wait, only 10. That seems so low. What counts as a circumstance?
It's all the big stuff. Your wealth, where you live, your job, that promotion. It gives you a boost. But because of the hedonic treadmill, your brain just absorbs it and it becomes normal really fast.
Okay, so 50% is genetic, 10% is circumstance, which leaves 40%. That must be where we have some control.
Exactly. 40% is determined by voluntary control or intentional activity. And this is the key takeaway for you, for anyone listening. This is the optimistic part.
So what are intentional activities?
Things like forming habits, exercise, practicing gratitude, working toward meaningful goals, investing in your relationships. These are the things that produce sustained, long-term positive effects.
So it's the difference between, say, buying a new car, which is a circumstance,
A short-lived boost.
versus joining a club or learning a skill, which is an intentional activity.
Precisely. That's the stuff that actually drives sustained well-being.
Speaking of circumstances, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. Money. Does more money make you happier? I thought the research said it plateaus.
It's a great question. And historically, yeah, a 2010 study famously said emotional well-being plateaus at about $75,000 a year. The media loved that number.
Right.
But the research has gotten way more nuanced.
How so?
Well, in what's called an adversarial collaboration, some researchers re-examined the data and found that for most people, happiness continues to rise with income well past that 75K mark.
So the plateau isn't real for most people.
It's not. The only exception was for the unhappiest 15 to 20% of people. They do still see a plateau, but even for them, it's higher now, around $100,000. For everyone else, more income helps.
But why? If it's not the stuff you buy, what is it?
It buys freedom and control. The ability to control parts of your life, to spend time with family or donate to a cause, and this is key, buy experiences instead of things.
And we know experiences deliver more lasting happiness.
Far more.
That idea of control is a perfect transition to the next bit of our data, which looked at a survey of these really high-achieving professionals, the exact kind of people Paige would need for Dynatomics.
Yes. This source used a very specialized sample. 82 executive MBA students, most of them are 35 to 44, already earning 150 grand or more. So this isn't the general public.
No, these are people deep into their careers. And when you look at their personality traits, the big five, what was the strongest predictor of their happiness?
This was a really standout finding. For this specific group, extroversion was the only personality trait with a statistically significant positive link to their subjective well-being.
The only one.
The only one. The correlation was 0.41, which is pretty strong for social science, and it also correlated with job satisfaction.
So for these high-earning professionals, being outgoing and sociable was a major predictor of their personal well-being, more so than being conscientious or agreeable.
In this study, yes. But it was an even stronger predictor than personality? Engagement. The correlation between job satisfaction and employee engagement was 0.75.
Whoa, 0.75 is enormous in this field. So engagement is a much better predictor of job satisfaction than just, their basic temperament.
Way better. Which makes you ask, okay, so what drives engagement? And the study found this critical gap.
A gap between what they say is important and what they're actually getting.
Exactly.
So what did this group rank as the single most important thing for job satisfaction?
It wasn't money. It wasn't perks. Across every age and gender group, the number one thing was trust between employees and senior management. Almost 80% rated it. Very important.
Trust. That's actually surprising. Why trust? Why would that be more important than compensation for this group?
Because trust buys them psychological safety. It gives them the confidence to take risks, to speak up, to know their work will be judged fairly. They're already well paid. They're optimizing for impact now.
And this is where the vulnerability is for companies. What was the gap? How satisfied were they with the level of trust?
The gap was huge. A 52-point difference between importance and satisfaction. It was the biggest gap in the entire survey.
That's a flashing red light for management.
A huge one. They're hiring this top talent, but they are failing to deliver on the single most important thing to them.
You see companies measuring productivity, the Dynatomics metrics, but they're ignoring the foundation.
Right, and you see the results of this when you look at the specific engagement questions that scored the lowest.
What were they?
The two lowest rated items were, 1, having a best friend at work,
Social connection.
and 2, receiving meaningful feedback in the last week.
Wow. So deep social bonds and quality performance conversations? The very human touch elements are what's failing.
It's an organizational emergency, really. And if we want to talk strategy, we have to talk about the hard science of trust, the neurochemistry.
Let's do it.
Well, trust stimulates the production of oxytocin. People call it the happiness hormone. And this isn't just a feeling, it drives measurable results. High trust companies report 74% less stress, 50% higher productivity, and 76% more engagement than their low trust peers.
So there's that 50% productivity gain again. The same gain is available just by optimizing for trust.
The human lever is incredibly powerful. But we have to go back to that extroversion finding for a minute. Leaders have to be careful not to fall into what Susan Cain calls the extroversion bias.
Right, the idea that we overvalue extroverts and it leads to a colossal waste of talent.
Exactly. Just because extroverts report being happier doesn't mean they're always the best performers. Introverts excel at deep focus, accuracy. Warren Buffett is the classic example. His whole strategy is built on careful, solitary analysis.
So a truly optimized workplace needs to balance both.
It does. There was a great study on a pizza chain that found extroverted managers did better when employees were passive and needed direction. But introverted managers got higher profits when employees were proactive because they were better listeners.
Which means the physical workspace has to be diverse too.
Absolutely. You need to follow the lead of places like Pixar or Microsoft who use these flexible floor plans. You need spaces for high-energy collaboration to build those social ties.
But you also need quiet spaces.
You absolutely need quiet zones for deep, focused work, for solitude and creativity.
And finally, the data showed that a one-size-fits-all strategy just doesn't work. Priorities shift, depending on who you are.
They really do. The youngest group in the survey, the 25 to 34-year-olds, they really valued corporate culture and autonomy.
And what about pay?
Compensation actually became more important for the older age groups. And critically, feeling safe in the work environment was far more important for women than for men.
Which points to a huge priority area for any company that wants to be truly inclusive. So we started with Larry Page and Dynatomics, this quest for perfect efficiency through AI. But his own legacy reminds us that the best optimization tool we have is the human mind at peak performance.
We have the science. We know 40% of our well-being comes from intentional activity. And we have the data showing that right now, connection, feedback, and above all, trust are what's missing.
The ultimate irony here is that for Dynatomics to work, for it to create these revolutionary designs, the algorithms have to be built and guided by creative humans.
And creativity, innovation, risk-taking, those are all functions of positive emotion. They are driven by that 40% slice and by high-trust environments.
So the ultimate hack might not be in the AI algorithm at all. It might be in how well leaders can implement these human strategies to unlock that 40% of voluntary happiness.
That's the edge. That's what no algorithm can duplicate yet. If the future depends on human ingenuity, then the biggest competitive advantage you can have is building a high-trust, high-SWB organization.
A profound thought and a crucial reminder of where real optimization actually lies. Thanks for walking us through this.
My pleasure.
And thank you, the listener, for tuning into The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.